Okay, welcome to our Industry Insiders with Goway series. Industry Insiders with Goway is where you can hear and learn from the best in the industry, pick up insider tips and tricks, follow the stories of proven and successful travel industry personnel, professionals like Ian, all the while journeying into the exotic worlds of Goway. Now today, as I mentioned, we're talking to Ian Smyth of one of Goway's account managers and in-house expert on group travel. And today we're going to talk about what it is, group travel with Goway, how to make a group trip happen, how to sell the trip, how we can support you in marketing, basically all things groups with Ian. So here we go. Ian, so before we get into it, for our viewing and listening audience, just want to give a little bit about yourself and your history in the travel industry, all that type of stuff.
History in the travel industry,
Yeah,
right.
please.
This is where I get to date myself,
Yes,
right?
you and me both.
Started back, way back, mid to late 90s, working for a little tour operator that doesn't even exist anymore called Regent Holidays.
Nope, never heard of it.
They had fabulous itineraries through Greece, glorious Greece. A lot of people listening in Canada anyway will remember glorious Greece. It was kind of a famous itinerary that we offered.
Oh, okay. I was an itinerary.
It was all about alliteration, Don. We had we had ships called the Fabulous Flamenco, Beautiful Bolero, Glorious Greece. Everything was that.
Right.
But it was a great little company to learn from. Actually, British-owned. Really kind of a fighter, little tour operator that just kind of kept punching above its weight, if you will. Anyway, I learned a tremendous amount in that role. Loved it. Anyway, went on to other company, very similar to Goway in a lot of respects, called FunSun, FIT operator. From there, I went to WestJet. Was there for 7 or 8 years. When I started at WestJet, we were 65 aircraft. When I left, I think we were around 120.
Oh, wow, nice.
So I, of course, take no credit for that growth, but point being, they had huge growth during that 7 or 8 year period. After that, Norwegian Cruise Line, and
NCL,
was there for a while. Good old NCL. We during that period from about 2015 to 2020, just before the pandemic hit, I think we launched about on average 2 ships a year. So a busy time, right?
Yeah, it's a big company.
A big company, and thankfully, touch wood, cruising is back, as is travel.
Well, I was just down in Antarctica in Ushuaia, and I don't think I've mentioned this to you. When we got back from our trip, came into Ushuaia, we docked, and the ship resupplied, sorry. And when we were in dock, there were 2 cruise ships plus 2 expedition ships in.
Wow.
We had to pull away from port at night, overnighted there. When we woke up the next morning, there were 3 cruise ships in port, another expedition, so like 6 or 7 large vessels in Ushuaia. So to your point, I believe cruising is definitely back.
Cruising is back. I think the term they call it is revenge travel.
Yes,
right?
very much. Oh, yeah.
And we're feeling it, that's for sure. So anyway, 5 and a bit years there. So a little bit of air, sea,
Land.
What else? Land.
Got it all.
And and all the way back to Regent Holidays. So great
and
little.
So obviously Ian's now with us as one of our account managers, based in Canada.
Yes.
But does a lot of groups work, which is hence why we're talking to Ian today about it. So I said this we did a little chat with Barbara, who was our past groups manager. She's since retired and Shirley's taken over. But Barbara had been with Goway, Goway's 50 plus years old. Barbara been with us for 45 or 46.
I know, it's crazy when I hear that.
Yeah, I know, a long time. So I said in that interview with her, I said, standing on the shoulders of giants is an oft-used line. But in our case, it still goes that our groups department has been around a long time, and it's probably, if not the largest groups department, close to it in North America. So we have a ton of experience in our groups people, which we'll touch on a bit later. So as I say here, we have I think collectively probably 150 years or more of travel experience within our groups department. So you literally cannot go wrong. So talking groups, to clarify it, what, Ian, is a group to Goway from a numbers point of view?
From a numbers point of view, Don, a group is 10 adults or more. So 10 and more, we fall into the groups bucket.
Now that's 10 or more traveling on the same itinerary.
Same itinerary.
Organized or represented by one person.
Correct.
Yep. So it's not 5 couples of 2 booking their their own travel. Same itinerary but booking independently.
Right.
That would be what we term an FIT booking.
FIT.
You could still have 5 couples booking the same itinerary, but all that would be handled by one group representative speaking to the groups person here at Goway, correct?
Right. Correct.
And 10 is the minimum.
10 is the minimum. Yep.
What's the biggest?
You know,
we could handle.
Yeah, and geez, you have been longer at Goway than me, so you probably might be even able to remember some huge groups. I know we've done some huge groups, but I think in a lot of cases, Don, the extent to how big that group can grow really sort of is affected by the destination itself. So for an example, Dubai, I think we could probably easily put, 500-600 people into Dubai, no problem.
Yeah.
Santorini, we might have a bit of a challenge, right?
Yeah.
So I don't think there's a limit to how big the group could be. I mean, we've had thousands in a destination at any one time. It really has to do with the destination that we're going to, the logistics, if you will. Right.
Now, to clarify that too, as Ian mentioned, I do know of, I can't remember the exact numbers, but it was like in the thousands where many years ago, we sent a lot of people to the police and firemen's games in Australia.
Right.
So not only is Groups to Goway like a bunch of friends, and we'll expand on what type groups are, but Goway can also handle like events. So now, when I say sporting events, we can assist with World Cups and that type of thing, but we don't normally specialize in that because there are companies out there who do those big sporting events and they grab all the tickets. But as an example, if like the police and firemen's ball, conferences, all that is part of our group's purview as well. But however, for the most part, we're really doing the globe-trotting, as we would term it, family getaways, extended group getaways to the usual locations. So we can do events, but really we're just doing the travel stuff for the most part, correct?
Correct, yep. And, you rightly point out, I know that the World Cup, we had a lot of agents coming to us and asking us about that. And as you point out, the logistics in that tend to be, you got to specialize in that to do it properly. So we don't pretend to be able to take on those kind of events.
Exactly.
But at the same time, sporting events is another theme that we do see. So there are agents out there that I know book groups with us that have that focus of, as you mentioned, 10 or more, one destination, one itinerary, and the focus may be for them, they're going to attend a sporting event, maybe not to the extent of the World Cup.
Yeah, exactly. So what we're sort of saying here, it's those big events, like the World Cups of soccer, of football, but if it's a smaller group wanting to attend like the Australian Open in Sydney, or I think it's in Melbourne, or anything like that, we can definitely coordinate.
Yeah, and I was just talking to an agent, I was going to say a few weeks ago, it was January now, here we are
Seems like a few
ticking
weeks,
along in 2023, and they had an interesting idea. They're putting together a premier football group tour, right? So going to England,
right? There you go,
to watch Liverpool take on Arsenal or whatever, right? So that's easily done, right? They're just sort of dropping 30 guys, if you will,
into a football match, or girls,
or girls. I was going to correct myself there, into a sporting event that's already kind of going on, and is not kind of a big sort of deal, other than the fact that it's part of an overall league, if you will.
Well, a local derby, as the English call their games. And actually, just as an aside, be it group or be an FIT booking, one thing I've always found, I've done this in Latin America with football, soccer, and I'm not a soccer fan.
Right.
I'm a rugby guy, but still, if you go to a country like Australia, South Africa, Europe particularly, not just England, all of Europe, going to a local sports match is one of the best cultural interactions you could ever have.
Absolutely.
So be it FIT, be it group, that's a good, and on the concept of getting a group together, if you play in a soccer team, rugby team, cricket team, whatever, there's a group waiting to happen. As in, take your team to a country that has that sport, and away you go. So we are getting ahead of ourselves here, but...
We're kind of drifting off, but it's it's there's no limit, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. To what you do, how you do it.
To what you want to dream up in terms of the group, we're happy to take it on.
Yeah, so that's Goway's motto. If you can think of it, we can generally do it, be it FIT, be it groups. Now, okay, so let's use me as the example, coming to you, Ian, as the Goway groups person. Okay, I want to put a group together. What's my financial commitment to get it going?
Yeah, so financial commitment, Don, is $1,000 to deposit that we ask for.
And that's Canadian or equivalent US. So 1,000
Correct.
US or 1,000 Canadian.
Correct. Yep.
Which, based on our numbers of 10, equates to $100 a person.
$100 a person. Right. And that gets the group going. That gets you sort of, your group destination expert working with you, and you can begin to plan out the bits and pieces. But that's what we ask for in terms of a commitment. I don't think it's a lot.
$100 a person to me.
That's yeah. And that gets things off the ground and rolling.
Okay, so okay, so now with that, let's say I've come to you.
Yep.
Here's my $1,000, Liam, and then something comes up. Be it I don't get the numbers, which we'll discuss in a minute, as in ways to get the numbers, or something like COVID.
Oh, yes.
Happens, and what you had planned or had booked even has to be delayed for a reason. Can I get my money 1,000 back, or is it movable? How does that work?
And I think this is one of the great things about working with a company like Goway, Don. Generally speaking, we're easy, we're flexible.
Yep.
Of course we have rules, and we have to follow them, right? But we're not so mandated and restricted by those rules. So yeah, if something does occur, this group for whatever reason didn't take off, maybe you didn't have long enough lead time. Maybe you go, you know what, next group I plan, it's going to be April of 24 instead of July of 23, whatever, right? It happens. We're more than happy to take that and work with you and move it to another group. So I don't want people to think that when they come to us, they're kind of, locked in and it's a drop dead kind of a situation. We're there to help you. I mean, I think you said at the beginning, or maybe you didn't, but we've been in business for 53 years. So we're going to be here, right? We're here for the long haul. And if this one didn't work for you, don't hesitate to, let's try again, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, we're happy to do that.
Okay, so that's a good thing to know. That the deposit's movable once by the rules.
Yep.
Things are up for discussion, but really just keep in mind you got one movement of your deposit.
Yep.
But we've really, other than the COVID, which was just not out of left field, it hit us, everyone so hard. We had to be very, very flexible there, which we were.
Yep.
Unless there's something big like that, generally speaking, this doesn't happen. As in the group, the groups go at some stage. Yeah.
And that's what I was going to say. The reality is, how many times do I deal with somebody coming to me and saying, "Hey, my group didn't go. What happens to my deposit?" Honestly, I think it's happened maybe once.
Yeah, exactly.
It doesn't happen a lot. And we're going to get into this obviously, but we're there to help you and support you, and we have ways of doing that, as we're going to discuss a little bit later. So you're not alone. Yeah, I guess is the message. Right?
That's a good message. That as Ian just said, we will get into it. But when you come to us with the group, give us the money. Like we'll design the itinerary in consultation with you, the agent, and obviously you, the agent, in consultation with your group representative. But it doesn't end there. We don't sit back. We'll support as much as we can. So we just discussed sporting groups. So what are the different types of groups that we've seen, and that a travel agent who may be looking to get into groups or expanding the groups business could look at? Now, when I say what type of groups, it's not style of travel, but like birders, photographers. You want to expand on that? Yeah,
I mean, it runs the gamut. I was mentioning to you this agent that I was talking to, and I thought that was really kind of I had not heard of it before. I mean, I have friends that are Liverpool fans or Arsenal fans, and they've done it, but I've never actually talked to an agent who said, we've got some tickets. We're looking at, I think it was September of this year, putting a group together. So that's one, example. I know from working with an agent back in the fall, she was putting together a backgammon group, believe it or not.
Oh, really? Okay. So that's how refined it can be.
Oh, absolutely. And you've probably been in pubs where you do see the guys still playing backgammon, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. In
there
the
are
parks
fans. I remember playing it in high school. Right?
Yeah. Well, I'd never heard of someone coming forward with a backgammon group.
Yeah, a backgammon group. So, again, it comes back to what we were talking about, and I maybe we'll get a chance to talk a little bit more about this too, is having that affinity, some kind of a thread that carries through each and every one of those folks that's participating in the group. That's kind of important. So anyway, it was backgammon. We've got the Premier Football League folks. We've got firemen. I think you mentioned that as well.
Games,
Yep. So sporting events is a big one. historical.
Yes.
I mean,
Battlefield tours. that type of thing,
battlefield
yeah.
tours. Oh, that's so big, right?
Yeah.
You know, and one of them that we're seeing a lot now, Don, and I think you and I have chatted about this, is folks doing sort of tracing the roots.
Yes.
Genealogy,
Yeah,
right?
genealogy, particularly a big one for our groups department, and we find coming from the African American community is going to Ghana for that exact reason.
West Africa.
West Africa.
Yeah, and I can't begin to tell you the number of agents that have told me how well we do West Africa. It's not, you know, it's not common in terms of operators out there that are doing it. So we have a pretty good West Africa program on both FIT and group side.
Yes, yeah.
But we're seeing a big interest in genealogy. And again, maybe we'll get a chance to talk a little bit about this. But in each case, Don, where I've seen that be successful, they've kind of piggybacked on somebody local in their community who's either known through the college for doing their speaking just locally, even through the churches, etc. You know, making that kind of connection and having somebody to collaborate with, right? Very important, I think, in the groups. But yeah, the scope of groups is really as broad as your imagination can be.
Yeah, and the interest out there.
And the interest,
because I started leading into this question with photography,
right.
And there's another, I can't remember what I said now, but yeah.
Birding?
Birding is, like, they're two sort of, I guess, commonly thought of groups,
right,
which a lot of travel industry personnel have dealt with at some stage. But as you say, like, so you go from, I don't want to say the usual, but a very common photography,
right.
Birding, art, to backgammon.
Yeah.
Like, that still gets me, but that's, again, how diverse it can be, to quote yourself, based on the interest that's out there. Now, as an aside, years ago when I was an overland driver, we were going through South America, Bolivia in particular, and we had on board a passenger. She was Canadian, actually, and she was into knitting, so therefore textiles was her thing.
Yep.
And she was blown away by the textile quality in Peru and Bolivia.
Oh, of course,
the high standard, the llama wools, vicuña wools, etc. And she educated me and the other people on the truck about, you know, weaving techniques and whether you can tell a good weave to a bad weave. And she was so inspired by the what she saw there, and she was not expecting it. And she was in a club, a knitting club. Went back home, created a group around knitting.
Awesome.
And textiles. So there's another one.
Yep. Scrapbooking. That's another one. Yes. Scrapbooking is
for
another one.
Group travel, yeah?
Yes, for group
I know
travel.
scrapbooking is big.
Yep.
So what's the angle from a travel point of view?
There is somebody again, that is known in the scrapbooking community that this particular agent, again, I'm going to reference all of my actual real life experience.
Yeah, please.
And sometimes, by the way,
it's real.
Yeah, it's real. And piggybacking in some of the groups that I saw when I was in the cruising industry as well. But yeah, you find somebody who's known in the community of scrapbooking. You talk to them, and you get them interested, and they then hold classes or conduct little courses on how to put scrapbooks together, how to create themes. And so during that itinerary that we build, there's a day where they are in a hotel and they have an hour with this person.
So it's basically scrapbooking, but when you're in Lima, or when you're in
Lima.
Rome, or when you're in London, or whatever.
That's right. Exactly.
That's a nice way to scrapbook.
Yes, yes. So, and that's so important too, I think, Don, when you have a little bit of passion for that particular thing, right? Maybe you and I would never even dream of, right?
Well, yeah, I've actually had scrapbooking when I was on the road. That's why I had my memories. But that never, in all my years of travel, I'd never thought of scrapbooking as a group-based concept.
Yep. Yeah. And you know what? Your quilting one, or I guess knitting,
textiles
crocheting,
and knitting, whatever. Yeah, textiles.
That's another one that's very popular. I mean,
what I learned from this woman, who's a sweetheart, but she was manically obsessed with,
passionate.
Passionate, completely. But I also say manic for this reason, because when this little town in Bolivia called Potosi, which is up in the hills, a lot of tourists go there for a few reasons we won't get into now. But by then she sort of knew what was on offer.
Right.
And it's a small town, old mining town. We found out later that night that there was talk on the street of this crazy gringa, white woman, running around asking the local men to buy what's the hats you'll see in a lot of video is what's called the chulu, which is like the skull cap hat.
Yep.
And she'd walk up to generally young guys on the street, tap them on the shoulder and say, "Can I buy your hat, please?"
Wow.
And they'd be happy, like that's just like a baseball cap to them. And they'd sell it for good money to them, but for, I can't remember her name, for her, it was cheap as could be.
Wow.
Right? For some of the best quality wool. So, yeah, she was manic. She was literally going around buying hats off the heads of people.
That's passion.
That's passion, yeah. So, okay, so as you can see, there's lots of, like, again, it comes back to one of Goway's core things. Whatever you can think of.
Whatever you can think of, Don.
We can put it together, be it FIT, be it groups.
Yeah, and that is your theme, and that's your, in a lot of cases, and this is a conversation that I have with a lot of agents about their group, is, what is the why? Why is it anybody would want to come on this particular tour versus either doing it themselves or maybe going on some other group that's on offer? So what makes yours special? What's your why, right?
Okay. Now, one thing I want to point out is that on all these concepts as well, another one popped in my head, which is an obvious one, is be a wine tour or cuisine, cooking.
Yes.
When I was thinking that as you were talking, I was also thinking that's part of what Goway can do. Again, FIT, but here we're talking groups, and more so with groups because it's harder to coordinate.
Right.
Let's use cuisine and cooking. You can go off, and it's quite easy to get you into restaurants and taste food, but we can also set up for your cooking lessons for your group in a private setting, or if you're into textiles and knitting, we could set up a private seminar, so to speak, with maybe a local artisan to talk about their techniques of dyeing wools, knitting, all that type of thing. So it's not only what we here can bring together to create the itinerary, it's what Goway can then add to that itinerary to make it to what you just touched on, special, unique, and different. And very much to the focal point of what the group wants to see and do.
Right, and it gives that agent a reason to sort of promote.
And an angle to promote as well.
An angle to promote, exactly. Something to shout about on their social media. And I think, I'm thinking back to my history. We started talking about my history. I have never seen a company that does what you just talked about better than Goway. They're, for an example, thinking about my cruise days, we did the cruise. We put the cruise together. You had a ship and an itinerary, and boom, you fit into that. But what we're doing at Goway, in terms of that partnership on the group side, is really helping you build that out. Add in those little unique differences. And that's something that we do so very well. And again, we do it on FIT. But when we're talking about groups and you're working with a group specialist, you can...
Sorry, go on.
Yeah, I was just going to say, we can really, no matter what the itinerary is, I guarantee you, we've got some ideas on how we can enrich that itinerary and help you really create a, very unique offering.
Yeah, and that's key. And what I was going to add to what Ian was saying there is not only can we add that uniqueness or something special, our groups team is so good because doing that for a group, 10 or more, becomes logistically more challenging. And with our partners in country and our group specialization, it's still a challenge, but it can be done. Whereas a lot of group departments won't make that swing. Now, we are jumping ahead a bit to like promoting a group, but it's very important, I think, that agents out there who want to do groups understand that let's use, I just spoke to Moira from our Africa department this morning, so Africa's in my head. So let's just say Cape Town. And you're doing a group through Southern Africa. Everyone who goes to a country, Africa and Southern Africa, will want to see the big things, even if they're a group with textiles in mind. They still want to see Cape Town and go and see a lion. So all those key elements are in there, which everyone can do. But to build into a group itinerary, it shouldn't just be about the destination, which is important. It's back to what you've just been alluding to. Within that itinerary to South Africa, as an example, out there, you should build in something unique and special. Now, if it's just a destinational group, as in you're just going for the destination, we can also assist with there. We can come up with a safari experience, which will be different than what the average person can get. But talking specialized groups with a focus, let's say it's cuisine. We can have a cooking lesson built in, but in a unique location, on unique time, and unique experience. And that's not only good for the group, it's good for the marketing of the group. right?
Yeah.
Because a lot of people do groups, but if you've got that hook, basically it's a hook. We're talking a hook.
You're talking a hook. For for the lack of a better word, it's a hook. It's an angle. It's something to give you a platform. Well, not a platform, but something for you to shout about.
Yes.
And I talk a lot about this in FIT. It's adding in that wow.
Yes, exactly.
That wow factor is important, and we're finding that trend sort of existing post-pandemic. I mean, sure, it existed always, but to the extent now where it's people are a little bit more, their mindset's a little different when it comes to travel. So they're going to a particular region, they want a wow, or they're willing to look and consider a wow, right? So we definitely I think it's easier for an agent that maybe is a little intimidated to promote the group, to build in that, what you're talking about, that hook, that angle, that wow factor.
Yeah, so if you are new to groups and working with Goway, when you come to us with your group, talk obviously about the destination, budget, length of time, but we will probably put forward the hook.
Yep.
But if you have something in mind, or push us to give us, I need a hook, I need something different.
Right.
Because we're trying to be as honest as we can be here. We want you to work with Goway for our groups, but a lot of agents out there are doing groups directly with in-country operators, etc.
Yep.
So you'll see lots of offerings for South Africa or Peru, wherever it may be. So I know it's going over and over again, but it's really important. Have that hook, have that something different that will make you stand out above everyone else in a very crowded market. There's a word that's used often, and it's a speculative group. Mm-hmm. What is that?
Good question. So a spec group is, it's basically sort of throwing it against the wall, if you will, right? Okay. And seeing if anything sticks.
Right.
It's somebody who's saying, I've always been thinking about doing a group to Egypt, for an example. So they don't have a particular connection to a local organization. Maybe there's not even a theme to it, or a common thread in that they're, we use the Firemen Association as an example. They're literally taking space with us. They're taking the deposit risk on themselves. They don't have anybody in mind at this point. They have no deposits. They have nobody banging at their door saying, when are we going to Egypt? And they're just going out there on a speculative basis, and they're hoping that they will be able to fill that group. It's a little more challenging.
Yep, of course.
But yeah, we definitely offer the ability to do spec groups. But yeah, it certainly comes with its challenges.
Right. So based on Ian's description there, it is more of a challenge. It actually feeds right back into what we're talking about. We'll help you with spec groups, but build a hook in to make it more attractive. Ideally, though, do the groundwork first. Go out and either tap into existing connections or make those connections on everything we've discussed before: photography, backgammon, knitting, whatever it may be. That's a much faster, easier way to get a group off the ground. Would that be a fair statement?
It is 100% fair. And as a matter of fact, again, I'm going to put on my old cruising hat. We ended up spending a lot of time and looking at the percentage of realization. Mm-hmm. Spec groups versus affinity groups.
Right. And affinity being what?
Affinity being what we've been talking about, the backgammon group, the knitting group,
an existing connection or a focal point, right?
Yeah, some thread, some commonality between everybody that might associate.
Would be an affinity group.
Yeah,
okay.
And putting it in even a more, I guess, blunt way, a 60th birthday party, right? Celebrating.
On that point, generational group travel is huge.
Yes, absolutely, yeah. So I think, if I remember correctly, the spec groups that ended up realizing themselves was less than a fifth, so less than 20% of all group space taken out on a spec basis actually ended up happening.
Right. Affinity
group was closer to 50%.
There you go.
So still a challenge.
Yeah.
But you're far better off right from the get-go, as you said. That starting block. We're going to be far better off.
You've got a good head start, yeah.
Right, and that's really why I encourage agents to try to find that connection. And sometimes the best way to do it is, what are you interested in yourself? What kind of gets you fired up? What are you passionate about? Why not kind of start that way? And then you will find that you can build out. I remember, and again, years and years ago, I was talking to an agent, very, very successful at groups. And I said, how is it you continue to fill your groups year in and year out? And I remember having this conversation, and she said, I have built such a loyal following that if at some point during my current group, so we're actually in destination, if I don't have every single person coming up to me asking where we're going next. I feel like I failed. Right?
Yeah.
She's built such a loyal following. Now, the challenge is she's constantly scratching her head going, I got to keep reinventing I got to keep coming up with these home runs, right?
Yeah.
But, it's a great big world, Don. As you very well know, having just returned from Antarctica, right?
Yes,
And you probably thought you'd never get there. And, anyway,
Yes, I go.
I was just going to say, so she considers that her key to success is her brand loyalty. But how did she get there? She had to start somewhere. And that's where she brought her passion in for travel. And I can't remember what her particular angle was in the beginning. But anyway, that's how she built her following. And of course, we all know it's word of mouth, right?
Yeah, very much so, because that actually leads to a couple of points I want to bring up. We are bouncing around our little structure here, but we will hit all the key elements here. Is that getting a group together is like herding cats, right? You get people interested, you want to do this, and you get questions about it. But once you've got your group going, and you've got enough signed on, it's then easy. It's then an easy thing because it's just one itinerary. It is as it is. Well, that's how it should be sold, A to Z.
Correct.
Anything outside of that, you can handle, we can handle with you, but we're just talking the A to Z bit here. And it's easy. Then you just take the deposits and bookings for 10, 20, 30 people. That becomes easy. FIT on the flip side, the whole booking process is often not a challenge, but it's work because it is what it is. FIT, it's customization, it switches and changes.
Right.
Each has its pros and cons.
Correct.
Getting groups going is difficult. Once it's there, it's easy. Well, nothing's easy, but it's a smoother run. FIT is the other side of it. But to your point of the example you used, once you get a good group going and a good, on the assumption it runs smoothly, which with Goway it will. I used to actually work with a group. It wasn't my group, but I actually put the itineraries together for them. It was someone else. And it's exactly what you touched on. They started as a travel club within a bank is where it originated from.
Right. Interesting.
Yeah. And that's another group option as well. If any financial people are out there, just look at travel clubs within companies. And they traveled a few times, and then it became word of mouth. Oh, we did this really cool trip. Even though you're not part of the bank, come along. Then a lot of them retired, so it just became a travel group. And the people I work with, what would happen is I'd create the itinerary that they're doing this year, and let's say it's South Africa, which it happened to be. But I would also then create 2 more for the following year. And as you said, at the end of the trip, you have Africa, you now have Peru and London as next year's options. They do a vote within a month, they pick one, and away to go. And it just rotated, and it's self-populated. So for the coordinator, it was a guaranteed group of 30-odd people a year, long haul. It took a while to get there, but when it got there, to your point, it was literally cream. Right. So this is the benefits of groups. Particularly on reoccurring people with maybe not a focal point. They just want to travel every year together.
And, we're talking about one type of group, Don, and I don't want to, while you were mentioning that, you don't want to exclude the fact that some agents may be listening don't have a particular passion that they want to build a group around.
Exactly.
They may have had somebody come to them. And,
good point.
And that's perfectly fine too. The only thing I would caution when, and this has come up a few times with those type of groups, is where you're not sort of first-hand knowledge, or it's not particularly your baby, if you will. You really want to flush those people's ideas out properly at the beginning to make sure you fully understand what they expect and what they want to do and what they want to accomplish before you talk to Goway. In terms of that group. So anyway.
Well, it's like anything in this industry. You want to qualify your
Qualify
client.
is so important.
And with a group, it's more so because you're not dealing with, let's say on average, 2 people. You're dealing with potentially 30 people. So if problems arise, it's also multiplied by 30 times as well. Be it problem being in, this is not what I expected. So again, qualification is key, FIT or group. So we've touched on destinations as an example. So on that note, what is hot in the world of groups? Is there a particular area, region, country that is showing a higher level of popularity at the moment?
Yeah, I was looking at that, and again, talking to Dubai. Let me just start by throwing that out.
Yeah, sure.
Dubai, and I work with one particular group of agents. They've had tremendous success with Dubai. And, okay, Dubai is a wonderful destination, and, it fascinates a lot of people for very good reasons. Of course, it's got the modern versus the history,
Yep.
Of the Middle East. But I was thinking about why this particular organization or group of travel agents has had such a success with Dubai. And one of the things that kept coming up was the fact that nobody else was putting Dubai in front of their guests, right?
Okay.
So these were guests who didn't even think that they ever would even consider a
Right.
destination such as Dubai. So such that Dubai is their number one groups destination with Goway.
Oh, okay.
As one agent said to me who was marketing it, she said, it's cheaper than South Beach. It's cheaper than sending my guests to South Beach for a
Seriously?
week.
Wow, seriously? There you
Yeah,
go.
easy to get to from
Yeah,
North
yeah.
America, of course, as you know. So Dubai is very popular. One that I see coming up a lot right now is Egypt. So a lot of chatter out there, almost equate it to what happened with the Maldives back in the early teens,
Yeah, yeah.
right?
Yeah, yeah.
It really kind of became a darling of social media. People were posting their images of them with their overwater bungalows, right? And people always associated Tahiti, French Polynesia,
Yes, yeah,
with
with
overwater
yeah.
bungalows. And then all of a sudden Maldives came in, and they started building these overwater bungalows. People started posting it on social media. That took off for groups, right?
Right.
But I'm seeing a lot of interest in Egypt
Okay.
for whatever reasons. I mean, I think they're obvious.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
it's
Like,
an incredible destination.
Egypt goes, like, you
I
can just
mean,
say Egypt and most people know what you're
oh my
talking
God!
about here, yeah.
And that's a really good point. When you say a destination, I always remember being taught in marketing that the easiest way to be successful at marketing is to be able to share a concept or an idea, and the person immediately understands and gets what you're talking about.
Yeah.
So when I say I'm doing a group to Egypt, I don't think there's anybody who could not immediately think of a pyramid,
Yeah, exactly.
of Giza,
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
of touring around the Egyptian museum themselves,
Yep.
sailing down the Nile, right? Anything like that. I mean, these are classical images. So anyway, Egypt's doing very well. We're starting to see Africa.
Well, South Africa is bouncing back
Pardon
in
me.
general.
Yes, I should. Yes, of course, Egypt is in
Yeah,
Africa.
yeah.
But South Africa, we talked about Ghana. So West
that's
Africa.
always been, or has remained, even, not throughout COVID. It dipped in COVID, but it's been a constant, really, for us.
Yeah, and I think it's it's going to continue to grow, and I think even Ghana themselves has kind of really caught on to this, and they are starting to market themselves a little bit better. So I think Ghana is going to continue to grow, and finally, I think we're seeing Australia, New Zealand coming back again.
I was going to touch on that in that group coordinators, and I mean our industry partners in this instance, a group coordinator, should not be shy of looking at a group if it's a destination long, long way away. Because we are also an air consolidator, and our groups department has access to our contracts, so we can also help with group block air as well if required. Our partners can do their own air if they wish, but we're here and able to do it. 9 times out of 10, our air is done with Goway for our groups people. So, as it's basically, there's a little catch line here. Don't be afraid to go the distance with your group. So Australia, New Zealand is a perfect example of that.
Right, and I would just I want to keep saying this to agents. It's a whole great, big, awesome world out there, and don't limit yourself to thinking about the traditional. I'm certainly not saying that Europe isn't popular. Again, I'll just reference. I was talking to an agent a few weeks ago, and she's doing a botanical group.
Oh, there you go.
So that's another one. Exactly, it came to my mind as we were talking. And she began telling me all of the place. I mean, I knew this was something you could do in England, but I don't think I knew to the extent that you were, there was so many. And she had this whole itinerary where they were in all sorts of places, primarily throughout the south of England, not just London either. It runs the gamut. And So that's another growing area, and I've completely lost my train of thought.
That's all right. We've got lots of other questions to hit on here.
Remember where I was going with that.
Yeah, that's all right. If it comes back to you, just drop it in. Okay, so here's some other sort of quick fire stuff as we go through some more of the key information about it. Based on popularity or just in general, how far ahead should someone be looking at? Like, they come to us, we create the itinerary. There's a time frame on that, but let's not talk that. Let's talk the itinerary's being prepared.
Right.
How far ahead should you be marking that? So if, Ian, you give me the itinerary today, regardless of destination, what's the average ahead time planning I should be looking at?
I think in a perfect world, we should be looking at a year to a year and a half.
Okay.
So right now we're definitely talking about 2024. Right. And I think that's more than enough time to properly do it. And you don't want to put yourself behind the 8 ball in that you're scrambling to put together either Zoom meetings or evenings or whatever. Give yourself the proper amount of time. So a year to a year and a half, I think, is really that sweet spot. It gives people enough time to start thinking about planning for this, budgeting for it.
Exactly, yeah.
That's an important part because, in a lot of cases, these groups we're doing are kind of, what do they call them, bucket lists?
Yeah, bucket list destinations.
So we want to give people enough time to plan for it. So that would be kind of the sweet spot, a year to a year and a half.
Okay, and of course that can fluctuate based on destination. Like Europe would be a different conversation at the moment because of space. So as you said, that's the sweet spot, but certain destinations may require different parameters. Like Europe, of course, you'd probably, based on destination and when, maybe even 2 years ahead.
Yeah, it's not wrong, Don, to begin those conversations right now. I was, again, I'm going to keep doing this, but that's all I do every day is talk to travel agents.
That's why you're here.
That's why I'm here, exactly. And I had an agent asking me if I thought she was thinking about Egypt. If I thought that February of 2025 was too far out for her to begin thinking and planning. And I mean, my answer to her was absolutely not. Right? It's a great time to get out of the Northeast, which is where she was. February is a great climate for Egypt. So my answer to her was no.
Yeah, I was actually going to touch on that we say 18 months. I was going to say don't be put off by that seeming so far away. That's actually, like for groups particularly, it's a good thing. And even 2 years is not to get nervous about. It's actually... Yeah.
I mean, some people plan their weddings, right? They're 2 years away. And then all of a sudden, boom, the next thing you know, it's here, right?
Yeah.
I mean, here we are in 2023. 2020 seems like forever ago. But the reality is, 2025 is not that far down the road, particularly early in the year of 2025. So,
and for what it's worth, I'm planning a trip with our family for Africa for 25 now.
There you go.
Yeah. Planning it out now.
Yeah. So you got to start saving the shekels, right?
Yeah, damn right I do. Okay, I'm going to bounce around here a bit. So we've discussed that a travel professional who wants to do a group will come to us.
Yes.
He or she may be what we term as the Pied Piper, as in the person who has the concept, the idea, the interest. Often, though, it's someone who's come to our travel professional partner.
Right.
But the point I'm making here, and this is Barbara Norton, our past groups person term, the Pied Piper is a person, be it the travel professional working with us or their client.
Right.
That's what you not really need, but is highly recommended to have. So it's basically someone out there shouting from the treetops about this wonderful trip to their connections or the travel professionals' connections. Fair enough? Yep.
Yeah, and again, I will say that in a lot of cases, it can be, a very anxious time taking out a group, taking on the risk. While we talked a little bit about the money, it's not huge. It's not, going to be the end of the world, but certainly it's, of course, money that we don't want to see wasted or lost. But the point being, collaboration sometimes is very helpful, and you have somebody else to lean on.
Yep.
So, the Pied Piper is important. If it's not you, somebody that is in that position.
Yeah.
They have a little bit of influence. They have some connections that you don't have yourself. And again, it gives you that opportunity to promote. This person will be joining us. They have a specialty in this, that, or the botanical garden example. The reason why I brought it up, she was having a hard time. getting this group off the ground.
Right.
Now I would have talked to her back probably, I'm going to say it was September or October. And actually it's for this summer. So she was concerned at the time. She only had about 6 people, so 3 couples. And she was running out of, she wasn't getting anywhere, right?
Yeah, the traction wasn't there.
She hadn't had anybody deposited in 6 weeks.
Right.
And so anyway, her and I had a call, and we just kind of brainstormed. And I said, is there anybody in your community? Maybe they work at a nursing, one of the nurseries.
Nurseries, yeah.
In your area. Like somebody that you can speak to that can maybe, if not themselves, introduce you to somebody who is known.
A door into that world, yeah.
Anyway, bottom line is she did end up connecting to somebody, and this person ended up bringing another 6 couples in, so
there you go.
It all worked out in the end. So sometimes collaboration is helpful, and that is, that Pied Piper in a lot of cases.
And what's key to what Ian just brought up there too is we being Goway, will assist as much as possible in, as you said, you sat down, had a phone call with her, and threw a few ideas out. She went off and, I assume, the agent went off and followed that advice and bang. Goway is also willing, based on group and the timing of it all, to do a presentation to the group on the destination. Now, if it's something specific like a botanical or photography, we might better speak to that aspect, but we can definitely speak to the itinerary, the group experience, that type of thing. So that's another option as well. We have other marketing support, but know that your account managers and your group destination specialists here at Goway, again, experience has its benefits. We have lots of ideas. We've seen ideas work. We've seen ideas not work. So we'll also advise on steering clear of certain avenues, which may just be a waste of time, or pitfalls. Again, that's all available when you work with the groups department here at Goway. A very common question, particularly on the speculative group, is if I get a group together, can I travel for free? So what's the answer to that?
Yeah, and the answer is yes.
Not speculative, just in general.
Right, the answer, generally speaking, is yes. And we'll factor that in. I mean, I think it's 1 in 20 we'll allow for a tour conductor, I think is what we use the term FOC. But,
FOC, free charge, free seat, whatever
TC, tour conductor. So it's 1 in 20. We need to know that in the beginning stages of your group contract. But it's typically 1 in 20 for us, and we're happy to do that. And a lot of people travel for free, Don, as you know, because of that.
Yeah. So, now that's land only as well.
Right.
Airfare, we can't. In this day and age, there's just nothing out there for airfare for anyone. So it'd be a land only. Now on that point, the prices that we present to our travel professional are net, correct?
Correct. Yep.
And as you just pointed out, within that conversation, we can build in the pricing for a free spot, multiple free spots.
Yeah.
So again, as a marketing idea, you could build into the net pricing a free spot to give to one of the group members for whatever reason. Win a spot, earn a spot. Like if you get 3 people on, you get your spot half price.
Yep.
And then, so we can build as many costed additions, seats as possible. So in other words, when you speak to us, have a conversation about the pricing as well. We present it to you as net, and then you can go out and price it based on our advice and suggestions to whatever you want, whatever margins you want to make, whatever you want to build into it.
Yeah, and to your point, I have known some group organizers, agents, that have done that. They've sort of built in their free of charge, their tour conductor, and used that to lure some of their Pied Pipers, right? It's it's a great great marketing tool.
Yeah, exactly. It's a good one, and it technically doesn't cost you anything. It's built into the pricing. Can we arrange insurance for groups? Yeah,
we absolutely can. We've done that in the past. We continue to do it. So it's another conversation that. And the other thing I wanted to mention to you, because I remember this was an issue back in my previous life at a cruise line. We assign you at the time of your take out the contract with us a group specialist, and you have that person throughout the life of the group.
Yeah.
So you can add in the insurance, you can take something out, you can add in that wow factor, the balloon ride, whatever it is. You're going to build a relationship with this person. I always remember at the the cruise line example, you had whoever answered the phone.
The phone, yeah.
And I will tell you that creates a lot of issues. The agents had
Yeah,
a conversation
totally.
with somebody, 3 days ago, and now they're starting all over again. And I really think what we do, where you have that relationship with the person here at Goway, the groups, you're not alone. The collaboration
Yeah.
again that we talked about.
Yeah, actually, that's a very good point. We should have actually probably launched with that when this quote process starts, the person you speak to, and they're all regional specialists as well,
Yes,
like our FIT
that's a good
groups.
point too, yep.
So they've booked Africa many, many times.
Yep.
They know the ins and outs of Africa or Europe, wherever it may be. And yeah, what's important is that you're with that person from the quote start
Yep.
to when the group returns. So there's no picking up conversations. The Goway group person becomes very familiar with you and what you want and need
Yep.
throughout the quote process.
Right. And you build that relationship, and again, it helps, I think, to alleviate some of the burden of you feeling like you're on your own.
Yeah,
right?
100%.
Yeah.
100%. I'm not going to ask this question, I'm going to state it. Goway is also bonded in the US and Canada at all levels, FIT
Yep.
and groups, so which, we've been around 53 years. We got through COVID, plus many other things. We'll be around for a lot longer. But should anything happen, the travel professionals' money and in turn their clients'
Yes.
money at all levels is secure and safe.
Yep, at all levels throughout North America, and that's I think a very important piece. Thanks for mentioning it.
And also back to having that groups person we mentioned from start
Yep.
to when the group comes back, through Goway Groups Department, when in country, you have direct access to not only the person who created the quote and knows it inside and out, but you have our 24/7 customer service team behind
point.
you,
Yep.
FIT and groups again, throughout. Hopefully nothing goes wrong, but hey, it's travel, things
Yep.
happen. Big or small, by booking with groups, hopefully you never have to see it or use it,
Right.
but you've got all that backup. If you've done the air with us, which
Yep.
is so important these days,
Yes.
you'll have
Oh my God,
backup on schedule changes, seats not being assigned properly, all that. So that's another important thing that, the one-stop packaging that groups
Yeah.
can do for you.
Yeah, the one stop. You're so correct. We do it all from A to Z, depending on which way you like to say that. And adding into that, your group specialist that you're working with, you also have somebody like me, your account manager.
Yeah, of course. Oh, yes, of course.
And
yeah.
I just want everybody that's listening to know that we want to see your group to be successful, right? And we're going to be, we'll have those conversations. Sometimes, as I said, Don, earlier, it's just a case of, okay, let's take half an hour next Tuesday. We'll get on the phone and we'll just talk about where you're at in terms of your group, what you've done, what hasn't worked. We'll come up with ideas. So I don't want anyone to feel like doing this is going to be a venture that they're going to have to embark upon their own.
Yeah.
Really, rely on us, rely on the fact that we've been at it for so long. And we're there to help you. We want to see this be a success for you.
100%. So just on that note, I'm just going to throw a few things out here. Just on, once you've got your group up or you've got the concept going and
Yep.
you need some help, this is just some stuff that's
Yep.
worth mentioning now. And again, we can expand on this, as Ian just mentioned, through phone calls
Yep.
with your account managers or directly with the group specialist. So some are pretty obvious, but let's just go through it. Build a rapport early
Yes.
with the person you're dealing with out there. So you know what they want, so you in turn pass on to us what we can create for you. Which travel buttons to push to make them want to do the trip. This goes back to having that hook as well. So we can assist, or you can do this yourselves, either or. Come up with a PowerPoint presentation on the trip to present or send to people.
Yep.
There are, we mentioned having early bird booking discounts. So if you built in, let's say your group price is $1,000, but you could roughly sell it for $900. Go out there with an early bird.
I like that.
Book early bird discount if booked by within the next 2 weeks.
Yep.
Or have a presentation night, which you can do yourself or we can assist with. And on the night, this is what we used to do when I was working overland in the UK.
Right.
Book at the travel show or book on the night of the presentation and get 5% off. That's always
Right.
a good hook as well. Look at building into your costing some little bells and whistles, travel
Yep.
bags or things like that.
People love little trinkets.
Little trinkets,
Yep.
and we can assist with sourcing that or whatnot, or you can source it yourself. Ways to advertise your trip, local chambers of commerce, radio stations if you have those connections, local newspapers, newsletters, editorials, word of mouth is what we discussed
Right.
before. If our travel partners have their own websites, obviously listing it there as well, sending out e-zines, all the digital, and naturally social media.
Social media, I can't begin to tell you the number of conversations that I have with people that are successful at groups. And you know what, TikTok.
Yeah, TikToking it.
And you know, I was talking to an agent, we were actually together in Fiji, and she was talking about, she's going to put together a Fiji group. And every day she did a little 90-second, 2-minute, whatever, video of her in Fiji. And that's how she gets her groups. That's how she builds the groups out.
Yeah,
you know?
I tell you, this is something that we probably can't assist with due to the production time and stuff,
Right.
but you can speak to this as well, and I do a lot of video work for Goway now, is video content is a big seller.
Yes.
If you've been lucky enough as a travel professional to go to the destination you're now trying to sell,
Right.
Video, and it doesn't have to be big production.
Yeah.
Like the TikTok, Instagram,
Yep.
or even Facebook of just what we would term teasers.
Right.
And I've done that since my Antarctic trip. I just post a little 20-second videos of some experiences we had. So you put that on your social media network under the heading of XYZ group to
Right.
Antarctica.
Yep.
This is what you'll see and do, or
Yep.
whatever it may be. And we can advise on keywords and stuff like that. So this day and age, social media is everywhere and everything. So definitely social media platforms, be it your company, agency one, or ideally personal.
Yep.
And or create a little, distribution list,
Right.
which
Yep.
feeds back into your e-zines or websites and stuff like that.
Yep.
There are so many more ways to market a trip, but we don't have the time to go through it now. But again, we have the portals to get that information through our account managers, Ian, who's sitting with me. All of our account managers are experienced with groups and can assist. We've got account managers all over the place, East Coast, West Coast, North and South. Naturally call one of our groups destination specialists to get the ball rolling. You just need to be registered with Goway if you're listening to this and not, to get any quote going, be it group or FIT. Give us a call. If it's new to you, don't be shy. Give us a call and ask a lot of the questions we've gone through today. You can ask all these questions with a group specialist and start from the beginning. If you're a veteran, you're experienced, come through the door, this is what I want and need, we can do that as well. So again, we could talk forever about this, but we don't have the time, nor do you out there listening, I would not gather. So Ian, anything you would like to sort of summarize, wrap up with before we say goodbye?
Yeah, I think the one thing that I would, and I say this to whoever I'm talking to when it comes to groups, is remember the 4 R's when it comes to groups. Make sure you have the right destination, the right itinerary, the right planner, that's you, the travel agent.
The travel agent, yep.
And sometimes the right leader.
Yeah.
Right? That's the Pied Piper, right?
Yeah, 100%.
So think about those 4 R's. And what I mean by the right destination, the right itinerary, is it's helpful if you have some particular passion for that destination.
Right
Maybe
back
you
to where
have
we
an
started,
experience
everything,
right back where we started. It kind of really boils down to that. So think about those 4 R's when you're planning out what your next move will be when it comes to groups. And it's very helpful if you have that kind of built-in experience, passion, whatever you want to call it, for the destination. Create that right itinerary. Make sure you're talking to your group, or you're listening to your Pied Piper, or you're listening to the person that's the leader of the group or whatever, so that you're properly building out that itinerary. And then, as I say, the right planner, of course, is you in combination with your Goway destination specialist, your Goway account manager. You can't go wrong.
Yeah, you can't. And again, just to reiterate something, what we've been saying all day, the hook is key.
Yep.
Like, all destinations are special for their own reasons, but in groups, you really want a hook.
Yep.
And it doesn't always have to be the experience, which is probably the best thing. It can be price as well. So also, you need to come through the door with us and saying, right, we're a budget conscious group, money's not an option, we want the experience. So price is important, price shouldn't drive it. It will have an impact without a doubt. But I think the key thing, what Ian's brought up with the 4 R's, is the right itinerary, is having the right content to attract people, to make you, the travel professional, and your group itinerary stand out amongst the crowd, and Goway can definitely get that happening for you. 50 years of experience has proven that. So on that note, thank you very much, Ian, for your time. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Don.
Out there in the ether, drop us an email, phone call, FIT or groups, but obviously groups is our focus today. give us a call. Our team are waiting. They are good. They are the best. And we thank you for your time, and we'll talk to you soon.
Appreciate it.
Cheers,
Thank
buddy.
you.